Solutions for Life on the Couch with Claudette, psychologist and functional medicine health coach, bringing you conversations of hope, healing, and transformation. In this Unbecoming series, we are unpacking my fabulous 40s coaching program, and joining me is friend and colleague Alicia Porter. Alicia is going to be sharing her experience as a participant in the program, and we'll be talking about the challenges of women today, our health and well-being, change, and what true sustained transformation really entails. It's going to be a fun, challenging, and thought-provoking series. Hi, everybody. Alicia, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you do, what makes up your world? Leave it up to you.
Hi, Claudette. It's really wonderful to be here on Conversations with on the Couch. So I'm Alicia. I am a psychiatrist by day and a mom and wife by night. Also somebody who, if I could describe myself, I would say I am passionate about life, maybe too passionate at times. At the moment, I work in child and adolescent mental health, which is quite a challenging job currently. And I definitely have been known to be quite busy in my former life, though, before I met you. And I mean, in my spare time now, I quite much to my surprise enjoy the outdoors and just soaking in like just some good scenery, particularly on a weekend with a good walk. Yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, so Alicia and I know each other for almost 5 years now. I've been actually just pondering and trying to come back to when we first met each other, and I calculated, I think it's about 5 years that we met each other on a professional basis. We've been working together for about 5 years now, but we've recently connected on a different level, apart from sharing patients and working together as colleagues. And I have been having the privilege of walking alongside Alicia on a different level, and she recently joined one of my coaching programs, and so we've been getting to know each other from that perspective over the last few months. So that's a lot of our conversations are going over the next few weeks are going to be along those lines, and we'll probably maybe throw in some other perspectives as well, maybe from our experiences working together from a psychological perspective too. We'll see whether that comes into the equation. But we're going to talk about this topic of unbecoming from angles of being moms, of being professionals in the mental health world, being ladies and women, and all of the perceptions around that, and all of the different avenues that intersect our lives across the different facets and the different hats that we wear as ladies. So just to kick us off on the topic of unbecoming, so Alicia's been doing this coaching program, Fabulous 40s, and maybe just to start us off, what made you actually think about joining? Like, what was the thing that made you say, okay, here's a program, maybe I want to be part of this? Like, what prompted you to be part of a coaching program?
Well, I think initially the draw card was the title Fabulous 40s. Having recently joined the 40s, I thought it would be something nice to do. I also quite like to participate. So in the spirit of participating, I looked at it and thought, this might be a good idea to actually maybe try something like the program. But also, I think it was just from a place of having been so busy and just feeling so exhausted, just being busy, and kind of that feeling of being on a hamster wheel where you're rocking you're going round and round and round and kind of staying in the same place. And I thought maybe this will, assist in giving me some kind of formula as to how to, get through this time. Also sort of appreciating that there's many changes happening, physically, emotionally, just having entered the 40s. So it was really from a point of wanting to participate.
Okay. So you wanted to be part of something, like part of a group connection, to participate in something, like a group program of some kind.
Yes, and I'd never tried like a group participation. And also, like there was sort of, when I looked at the sort of blurb or the blurb before, it was like we'd look at movement and diet and lifestyle. And I thought, oh, a holistic program, that sounds interesting. But also, again, just being with women of similar age and similar life stage, that was one of the draw cards for me. And of course, who doesn't want to be 40 and fabulous?
Absolutely. So it was the attraction of being part of a group, but also wanting to perhaps look at all those different, it sounded like a holistic package, being able to look at all those various avenues together in one approach was appealing to you. Okay. Did you have some sort of like expectation in your mind of what it was going to entail, what it was going to look like? Did you have some idea of what you were going to be getting as part of this group?
Of course, I thought you were going to give me a formula of how to do it. And you're going to tell me exactly what I needed to eat, what I needed to cut out. You're going to tell me how many I needed to do, at what time I needed to do the movement. And you were going to maybe give me some tips on encouraging me to get outdoors and do all of those fun things. So I really thought that I was going to get like a foolproof recipe that was going to be sustainable. And it was something that you were going to tell me what to do.
So you thought you were going to get like, this is the eating plan that you must follow. This is the movement plan that you must follow. You thought you were going to get like a structured step-by-step, do these things exactly like I'm telling you to do formula. Is that your understanding of what you were going to get?
Absolutely. You were going to tell me and you were going to fix all that was wrong. And you were going to encourage me to be less busy, and you're going to encourage me to rest and do all of those things that I needed to do.
I'm just interested to know, as like a side note, had you done any like programs before like this? Had you done anything? Have you joined any program before with the hope or the expectation of trying to achieve something like a nutrition program or an exercise program or something like that in your life previously?
I mean, so I had previously tried, but I always sort of, I know I'm a good starter, but not quite a finisher. And I did often get results in the, initially, and, just never kept it up. So I thought, well, maybe a group program would be a little bit better because there would be better accountability maybe in a group, or, it might be easier because I had obviously seen the results that you had. So it was kind of something you were kind of showing us something that a process that you had already been through. So I thought, okay, well, if Claudette can, I'm sure this can't be that, I'm sure if Claudette can, I could try, and so it was really with that mindset that I then kind of said, I know you sent the blurb to me as like, do you know anybody? But I was like, oh, okay, me.
So for you were looking at, okay, I've done programs before, I've started off well, but I haven't actually been able to sustain what I've attempted previously. So maybe this time it can be different because now I can participate with other people there'll be accountability, firstly. So maybe this could be different. This could be more sustainable because there's accountability. Maybe this can be more sustainable because the approach is a little bit different. There's a few different elements to it. And maybe this could be more sustainable because here's a person who's facilitating this group that is showing evidence that they've also done it personally and they've been able to maintain this for themselves. So there's a few elements here that look like it's a bit different to what I've done before. So let me give this a go. Am I understanding that that was appealing to you from that perspective?
Yes, yes. That was what it was. That was the appeal. Yes.
So how did you feel when you came to the first session and you didn't get any recipe and you didn't get any, this is the diet plan that you're going to eat and this is the exercise plan that you're going to follow and this is what you're going to stop doing in order to not be busy, and this is how you are going to rest, and this is how I want you to sleep, and how did you feel? You were shattered.
Well, firstly, the program was completely not what I expected. It's rough because it really, instead of kind of having this outward locus of control where it's you telling us. I mean, I remember in that first session, when you were kind of saying, well, we were talking about, for example, one of the things we do in the program was the elimination, diet. And you said, well, it's actually not a diet and like weight loss is not the goal. And I thought like, but aren't diets meant to cause weight loss, and so the idea that they wouldn't and you said, weight loss would just come as a natural consequence. And I thought, she's lost her mind now. What is this hocus pocus, that we're now having to deal with? So actually just having to wrap my head around that, but also the idea that actually you don't have to do it. I was like, what do you mean I don't have to do it? Like, but you said, like, no, actually, if it doesn't work for you. And I think that for me was the kind of one of the first shifts where it was about what was going to be good for me, not necessarily, even though we were in a group, it was still individualized and tailored for the group. I mean, for the individual rather than for each one. So, I mean, I remember my first kind of speed bump was kind of having to face why I was so resistant to the idea of an elimination diet, but it didn't stop there. I had to really then go and examine what was it about this that really created the resistance within me or this reluctance to do it. And when I had to like drill it down, it was quite, scary and quite a vulnerable sort of place to be when you realize that, sure, like a lot of stuff that has happened to you has impacted the way you perceive things or see things. And I think that was the harder part of the just that realization that I've been living on autopilot and just doing without really kind of enjoying to any. So yes, enjoying, but not truly wholeheartedly, enjoying. And just one of the other bigger things was just realizing, what are my values that are important to me? And the realization that what was important to me was not featuring anywhere on my to-do or busyness list, which again was quite a, oh my goodness, what have I been doing then, And so it really was a lot deeper and a lot rougher than I anticipated it would be. And just kind of also asking like the hard questions, which I think are then more sustainable because then we're getting to the root cause.
Absolutely.
And also just modeling modeling for us. I mean, not modeling in that sense, but just modeling
Like-
behaviors for us.
Yes.
I think that was definitely the difference, that it really truly was okay if it was then tailored to you.
Yeah. So
It needed to be okay with you.
Yes. So I think maybe for the benefit of those listening to our conversation, to fill in some of the blanks, because there's so many deep things in what you've shared now in terms of your experience, and to help them understand the functional medicine coaching approach and the journey. It's really about all of these nuggets that you've just shared now, in that, true behavior change is about digging underneath the surface and equipping us or empowering us with those tools to be able to facilitate change that's long-term and sustainable. So, it isn't really about trying this nutrition plan or that exercise program or the next one, which is the latest one that's going to work for me. Because those are the things that are on the surface. You could really pick any nutrition plan, and if you have the correct underlying tools for behavior change, you'll be able to apply that and make it work. That is why it was a case of, if you really want to figure out what food groups or what types of food work for your body and don't work for your body, the elimination eating style would be a wise way to go about it. But you don't have to do that. You could do that, or you don't have to do that. It's not about doing that. It's about how you would do that, like the tools you would use to go about it emotionally that would make you successful at doing that or not. And so that's why a lot of our time on the coaching program is spent on those underlying mechanisms, what's underneath the surface, like you spoke about, your values, your mindfulness, your awareness of your choices, what is driving you to make certain choices, what is propelling you to choose this behavior now or choose that behavior in that moment, and equipping you with the ability to reflect on those things. And when you're aware of what's happening underneath the surface and you have tools to improve that awareness and tools to shift that, then what you do on the surface becomes so much easier, so much more doable for you, and you have the empowerment now to move forward. And so hence why a lot of our focus and attention in our group is not so much on the do's and the don'ts, but on the how. And then the do's and the don'ts become so much easier for the person, thereafter. So what were some of the hows that you found were quite like light bulb moments for you, if you are comfortable to share?
So I think probably the biggest light bulb moment was this idea of, or I remember going through a session where we spoke about self-compassion and self-care and just kindness towards ourselves, and this idea that we give it out in heaps and bounds to everybody else, but it's actually so difficult to practice self-compassion to yourself, because the culture out there, or I'll speak for myself and my own culture, the idea that you taking care of yourself is always perceived as selfish. Worse so if you're a mom, or you have responsibilities. Taking care of yourself is kind of the last thing that you do, or you get to after all is said and done, or you'll sacrifice yourself, if something has to go, it'll always be kind of your thing. And that's kind of, it's almost worn with like this badge of honor, and just again drilling
like
that down,
like a martyrdom of some kind.
And like sure, being busy is really something that we have, like it's heroism, at its highest and purest form. And just kind of the realization that actually it's destructive to our bodies. I mean, aside from just the group work that we did, all the, the videos and the resources that were made available. I mean, I sat and watched one of the YouTube links called The Rushing Woman. And I think I pretty much cried through the duration of this. I mean, it was a short clip, but I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm actually causing my, if I don't stop and I don't, do something about this, actually just take a hold of this, that it's going to be physically damaging in the long run. So even just then realizing, that our inner critics are there, they're so subtle, and kind of having to stand in the mirror and look face to face and realize, like, sure, this inner voice is so harsh and so not conducive, where it's a should do and must do and have to do, rather than it would be nice to do. And this either or mentality, like you either do this or do that. You can't do both. You can't have it all, because it must be either or. And, so all of those things have been challenged in a significant way. And I mean, I was saying to somebody recently that sometimes tweaking just the way you speak to yourself can change so many things. Just being mindful of your responses within your body to stress. I remember you sometimes would check in and say, like, so where are you? Are you like in sympathetic overdrive, or are you at rest? And I mean, even this idea that when you are so worked up, you are burning sugar rather than burning fat. It doesn't matter how much exercise you do. If it's from a place of stress and busyness and autopilot, you're not going to lose weight. Whereas if you do that from a place of rest, you actually burn more calories.
Absolutely.
I did the exercise. I'm someone who's like, I want to see. And it's true. And I remember laughing at you and thinking you had lost your marbles at the beginning when you said, weight loss would be just a consequence of the choices we make. And I can really say that I see that, like see it. Where before, I mean, I would give my personal trainer such a hard, like I was the worst type of client, because it was from a place of it should be done, Now it's like, it would be nice to get some movement into the day. And I actually find that I enjoy it a lot more. And we have a happier relationship. But that goes for anything. I mean, I can't believe I get up on a Saturday morning and go walking for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, because it's, I quite enjoy it.
Amazing. Yeah.
And so it really has been, I mean, I think it's still a work in progress.
Absolutely. We all are.
Yes, but just being able to connect some of those dots and not being on autopilot, or even when the autopilot starts revving, to kind of just being able to like, okay, let's land this thing before it gets out of hand.
Yeah. I think, that is why we focus on the things that we do in the program, because there's so little awareness of everything that's underneath the surface. People do have good intentions. Everybody is wanting to shift things in their world. They start off with very good intention. I want to be able to rest more. I want to be able to take care of myself. I want to be able to say no more often, or whatever the thing is that they want to shift in their world. They have good intention in doing that, but they're not always aware of what it is that's hindering them from doing that. And so whatever effort they're putting in, or whatever they're trying to do, is that short-term, short-lived, because they aren't aware of all, of what's behind it. And so much, like you say, of our internal narrative has been shaped and has been formed by our experiences, by everything that's been internalized that we have no idea. So we're going around and we're making choices, or we're taking actions, or we're deciding, and we have no clue that all of that is being informed by our narrative. and we're not stopping to question that. So we're just acting, we're just choosing, we're just deciding, we're just behaving. And we think that that's all independently happening, but it isn't. So when you're making a choice to not sleep, you don't realize that you're actually not making that choice independently. You're making that choice based on a whole narrative, but you're just not aware of that narrative. And so it's so important for us to shine a light on that and to say, okay, hold on, what is my narrative? What is it that I'm actually telling myself here? Because I am telling myself something. There is definitely a narrative. And if I am telling myself something, maybe I'm telling myself, how can I go to bed when there's dirty dishes in my sink? And so if I'm telling myself that, then where did that come from? Where did it come from that, how can I go to bed? So I must be believing something about that. Where did that belief come from? It came from somewhere. There's some kind of value attached to that. There's some kind of belief and emotion attached to that. But that's happening to us all the time in all spheres of our lives. And like you have discovered, there are all these shoulds and ought tos and musts, and they're operating in every sphere of our life. So when you try to just eat better, or I'll just try this exercise program, or just try this eating plan, it's like, I like to look at it as this analogy of being like a caterpillar who in that moment in time has the potential to become something completely different, to shift and to change, to transform. The caterpillar can become completely different and can become a butterfly. But in that moment in time, all it's doing is it's just putting on wings. So it's in its crawling state, but it's just a caterpillar that's just attaching wings. And it's trying to fly, but it's not really going to go anywhere if it just remains a caterpillar with wings on. And that's not really change. That's not really true transformation. Whereas a caterpillar goes through a process. It goes into a cocoon and it struggles and it goes through all of its changes and it stays there for a long time. And then it has to really do the work and it has to break that cocoon open to flex its wings, to make the wings stronger so that it can fly. And then it becomes an actual butterfly, which is radically different to what it started out looking like, which was a caterpillar, two different creatures. By the way, that's why I have the butterfly as the symbol for my practice logo, and you see it all over. Because to me, that's what transformation is about. You start off being one thing, and through that process of working on yourself, working with yourself, you end up being something that's totally different. That's transformation, and that's sustainable. That butterfly doesn't ever go back to becoming a caterpillar. It sustains that change.
And I think that was the important thing, like you said, a very important thing, that you work with yourself. Not you work on yourself, but you also work with yourself. Yes. So while you're working on yourself, it is with yourself as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's a hard process because you have to face some very hard truths and go back to the root of some very hard things. And sometimes it's not necessarily big things that have happened, like big things necessarily.
It doesn't have to be trauma.
It doesn't have to be trauma. It's just like you say, what is your narrative? What is the thing that goes over and over and over in your own mind that impacts everything that you do, don't do, form or not? So while, the interesting thing is that it's a process. And while the process is quite hard, I think it is harder to just continue being in the way that
caterpillar crawling on the ground your whole life when you can fly.
On the ground, yes, not actually realizing that, you can fly, essentially. Yeah. And so I think for me, it would really be about choosing your heart, which is going to be harder. While this is hard, remaining in that way is just as hard, because there's lots of yourself that you are sacrificing and not even knowing that you're sacrificing. So it really is in the to kind of live wholeheartedly,
Yeah.
more than anything. And I love what, you know, with the kind of concepts that even Brene Brown sort of puts out there about the ideas of it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yes. That was going to be my next question to you, because you touched a few times on the modeling of self-compassion through the coaching experience, where, you know, a lot of you were saying, you know, I did this, but, you know, and we talked about the baby steps and small steps and building habit upon habit. What was that like for you to experience that, to be able to say it's okay that I can take small steps, I can do this gradually, that, you know, a step is still a step and it's still progress?
It was rubbish in the beginning because because everything in me says, like, I'm competitive. I need to get this done. And I mean, even more so, it's embarrassing now because you know me. And now I'm not winning at this thing. It's just awful. Like, what's wrong here? You know, and I think I remember voicing that, like, I'm not doing this properly. Like, I'm not doing this well. I can't do this, like, because I'm not doing it perfectly, you know. And so this, like, small steps. So you mean everyone's a winner? Really? Like, really? No, but
yes, I remember having that group conversation where we were talking about medals and prizes, and you were like, no, there's no, I don't want, you know, there is this concept of bronze medals, silver medals, and gold medals.
of course, I want to, you know, I need to do
I don't
this
want the bronze medal.
Yeah, I don't want the bronze medal. I mean, that's just my personality. I mean, you can ask my family. Nobody wants to play 30 seconds with me because it's never just a game. My husband asked me the other day, like, why don't you just let the children win? Like, why? because I can't, you know. So again, it's just having to face that, and just this idea that even if it's not perfect, it's okay. It's just a small step, and every step counts, and every decision counts. So if you made a good decision today, well and good. If you didn't make a good one tomorrow, you know, if you didn't make a good one today, there's always tomorrow. But just being able to be mindful and be aware, and just saying, okay, it's okay. And then again, you realize that inner critic that is so loud, and it's like, it's not good enough. And, you know, and this idea of just not being good enough was also quite a big one, because again, I mean, what do you mean not good enough? It looks so like you're winning at life, but if it's that kind of inherent inward feeling of like, it just doesn't feel like it's ever going to be good enough, and then kind of getting to that place where you realize, like, actually, it's enough. I am enough. It's enough. Like, that's it. And but just also changing the narrative is important.
So was there a time when you found that moment, or do you feel like it was just a gradual easing into it, that okay, I can be kinder to myself, I can be a little bit more compassionate, it is okay that it's not perfect, one step is better, you know, this one step is better than where I was last week?
I mean, I think it was a little bit of both. So I think gradually, because again, there was this modeling. So when we got to class or our group session, and we hadn't mastered the task of the previous week, it wasn't kind of like, oh my gosh, you people are just wasting my time. This is like, just get on with it, suck it up, put your big girl panties on. It was like, okay, let's just stop. Actually, let's just drill it down. Let's see, you know, and actually, this is good enough, you know. And so it didn't have to be, maybe you're not where you want to be, but where you are, like, that's okay. But just having that modeled back was important, I think, because then it wasn't that you were saying like small steps are okay, they really were okay. So you weren't gonna, you know, kind of shame us, for example, for not doing or you know, that kind of thing. But I do think there was a period where I got quite sick during the process, and I was laid up. I literally was flat out on my for almost a week. But in that time, kind of starting to feel like, no, but I have to do this, and I have to do this, and it needs to be this. But all I wanted to do was actually just read a book. And I think you're saying to me, like, does it have to be like a walk or read your book? Why can't you say to yourself, you know, it would be nice to read, and it might also be nice to get a bit of movement. So maybe you could do both in smaller proportions then, for example, you know, and just realizing, okay, actually, I do need to be. So mine was kind of initially like this forced kind of, because I actually couldn't do anything, and just being kinder. And I realized that the shift had happened when I get stressed, chocolate at comfort, but it's not just like 3 pieces of chocolate, it's the whole chocolate. But I remember you saying again, it doesn't have to be no chocolate at all, but maybe just have a piece. And I realize now that 2 pieces, 3 pieces, and I'm okay with it. It doesn't have to go on and on and on and on, because it's okay to eat the chocolate, but just not the whole chocolate, for example.
So for you, you discovered how powerful, like for so many people, that narrative actually is, and how like being, I almost want to say it in this way, like we can become a slave to our stories, really. We can become enslaved to our stories. The thing that can keep us stuck in the life that we don't want is our story. And your story can actually just be a sentence that you're telling yourself about something. And when you just shift that one sentence, it can actually unlock you in a way.
Yes, and also just not realizing that you have a narrative at play, and just becoming one aware of what your narrative is, and what is it that I tell myself constantly over and over and over. And I think a lot of the time we walk around not realizing, you know, our stock, for example, and how sort of critical or damaging it can be to us, because we just go, 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 and we never stop to kind of think, well, what is my narrative? And I think that for me has been a real learning curve, a real challenge, because once I realized what my narrative was, and then it was kind of now going counter the narrative, which again is it is quite challenging, because also, you know, you're not just an individual, you belong to a family, you belong to a culture, you belong to, you know, a profession, you belong to so many different things that tell you different things about what the expectations are, and just realizing what is outer expectation and what are my inner expectations.
Absolutely.
I mean, there were so many things that were like,
and I know we're going to talk about all of these things in the weeks to come. So if you're listening to our conversation today, you know, definitely look out for the next few conversations we're going to have, because we're going to talk more about, you know, what's underneath the surface, values and our character strengths, just stress in general, and, you know, these issues of narrative, and just also, you know, how narrative can make us perceive things. Just the other day, something happened to me, and immediately I had a thought about it, and a situation happened, and I said, you know, oh my goodness, I made that situation equal something. And then I quickly stopped and I thought, okay, but it could mean that, but it also could mean A, B, or C. And so I'm not going to just assume it means D. It could mean A, B, and C. And immediately my whole set of emotions, you know, went down a few notches. So, I mean, this relates so much with the stress as women that we face all the time, and, you know, the state that we put ourselves in continuously, you know, but we're all in it all the time. So having these conversations is so important for us in all respects, not just physical health and well-being, but emotionally for all of the aspects that we face all the time. So Any last comments you want to throw in for today, Alicia? Because I know that we are going to be talking about some of the topics that we covered a bit more in depth in our coaching experience together in the weeks to come. But is there any final comment you want to make about just wrapping up the initial experience you've had getting into the group and some of your first impressions that you want to share just as we end off our conversation today?
I mean, you sometimes get those moments in your life where you kind of feel like, sure, the value that this has added, I don't know that sometimes I'll read a book and think I didn't pay enough for the book, like in terms of the value that it added, and it was kind of the same sense with this. Like, I mean, I was part of a pilot group, and at some point I was like, shucks, there's so much value being added. I don't know that I paid enough.
Wow, I'm so humbled that you said that. That touches me so much. Thank you.
So I really think as women, sometimes we just need to stop. And more than rest, we just need a pause. Just pause and kind of catch our breaths. And so we can move forward in a healthy way, because the truth of the matter is that we really do owe it to our health, our long-term health, to actually take, when I say self-care seriously, this idea of putting on your own oxygen mask first, that we take it seriously. And it's more than, again, I'm going to say, it's more than a day at the spa, a trip to the mall for shopping, or a week, a girl's weekend away. It's so much more than that, because like you said, it's about scratching beneath the surface. What are the things that limit me in reaching my full potential?
This is about transformation. This is about unbecoming. It's about, not like you say, the spa is the temporary wings for that moment in time. This is about what we need to do to shift or transform for the future, for permanent change. And so for me, I mean, I've shared this already in terms of my personal journey, and it's part of my my own journey. And when I went through it, we all ask that question, why? And I came to that place, and I came across a quote the day that I was leaving the doctor's office. And it so happened that very afternoon, I came across the quote, and it said, you have been given this mountain to show others that it can be moved. And so I took that as my challenge to say, okay, I need to do something with this now. So it is part of what I feel purpose to do in my own ongoing transformation, and working with myself on myself, and journeying with other people to do that too. So thank you so much for making yourself vulnerable in this process and sharing your own journey. And I'm so excited for us to carry on this conversation. And I know in making yourself vulnerable, it is gonna empower other ladies to dig deep into themselves as well, and touching other lives that are listening out there as well. So look forward to chatting with you again in the week ahead. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when future videos like these become available. I hope that you found today's conversation beneficial. If you require any psychological or health coaching assistance, you can make contact with Solutions for Life using any of the links in the post description. As you continue on the rest of your day, reflect on the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson. What lies behind you and before you pales in comparison to what lies within you. Take care until next time.